everyone. So after all of you have studied about the conceptual design, now let's dive deeper into the next exciting steps, which is about logical design. In this logical design, first we have to create a table for each entity types. But before we create the table, first we have to take a look in the conceptual design, the mapping step first. So this first one is talk about the faculty entity, and so we have to create the faculty table and import all of the attribute in the faculty table. But remember, for telephone it is a multi-value attribute, so we don't have to put it in the faculty table. We have to create another table for the telephone. So now let's create a table about the faculty first. So in this faculty, it has two attributes. So we have to input two attributes in it. The first one is about faculty ID and then faculty name. Faculty ID. Then faculty names. And don't forget to underline the PK, the primary key, like this. And this faculty table. So after we create faculty table, now we have to create the another table that in faculty, the telephone table. First we have to write the name is faculty telephone. So for this telephone table, it is an attribute from the faculty entity. So we have to take the primary key from the faculty table into the faculty telephone. So first we have to write the faculty ID because it comes from the same entity. It just have the multiple value attribute, so we have to take it out and create another table. That's it. And then import the telephone. And also don't forget to underline the PK, primary key. Now let's move to the next one. After we create faculty table, now we have to create the lecturer tables. And in this lecturer table, it has 5 attributes in it. So we have to create table that have 5 columns. This one is a lecturer table. First, we have to import the PK in the first column, which is about lecturer ID. Next one, lecturer name. Lecturer name. And next one, qualification, salary, and type. Qualification, salary type. The last one is types. Have 5 columns. So now after create lecturer table, we move to student table. And in this student table, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has 5 attributes in it, but for the name, it also divide into small attribute, which is first name, middle name, and last name. And in this attribute, it called composite attribute. And so we only take the small attribute that come from the name to import it into the table, which means that we have to put only the first name, middle name, and the last name into the table called student. We don't have to put the name attribute in it. And for the age attribute, it is a derived attribute, which means we don't have to put it in our logical design. And for about the skill, as I already told you, it is a multiple value attribute, so we have to create another table for this attribute. For supervisor, it takes one of the student into a supervisor, so which means that supervisor have to stay in the student table, but it also have to take student as a foreign key. And so now let's create the student table. So as I already told you about the attribute, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it has 5 attributes in it. Now let's create the student table for 5. Student, first we have to write student ID. Remember that we have to input the primary key in the first column and then the order in the next. Then first name, middle name, last name, and date of birth. First name, middle name, last name, and the last one is date of birth. Date of birth. Now let's create a table for the multiple value attribute. Which is about skill. So I give it name student skill because it's a skill that comes from student. Sorry. So first we have to import the student ID because it comes from it is an attribute that comes from student entity. put student ID and then skill. Also don't forget to underline all of the primary key. And for this to underline, it means that it has two primary key, which is we call it CK. Now let's move to the next entity, which is about courses. So in these courses, it has three attributes. So we have to create one table that have three columns. The name of it called course. So first we have to import ID, course ID. Next is course name and then credit. Course name, credit. And underline the primary key as always. Time. So we have to create another table. And the rule of many-to-many relation. First, we have to take the ID, the primary key from the student, and then the primary key from the course, and put it into the study table. So now let's create table that called study first. First, as I already told you, we have to take the primary key from the student, which is called student ID. Next is the primary key from the course, which called course ID. And then we have to import the attribute in this in study table, which called time. And underline all of the primary key. So in this table it has two primary key, which is CK. We call it CK. Now, after we create it, finish, we have to take a look about the relation. First, I want all of you to take a look about the faculty and literature. This faculty and literature, it has relation one-to-many. So the rule of the one-to-many relation, first we have to take the primary key from the first relation and put it into the many relation, which means that we have to take faculty ID from the faculty and put it into the literature table, which this faculty ID it become a foreign key in literature table. So we have to create another table for literature. Which is called faculty ID. Faculty ID. And it is FK. So I have to write FK to make sure. Now, so this relation, we already take a look at it. Now let's move to faculty to student. It also have one-to-many relationship. As it's still the same, we have to take the primary key from the first relation and put it into the many relation, which means we have to take the faculty ID from the faculty table, the primary key of faculty, and put it into the student table, which this primary key become foreign key in student table. So we have to create another table in student table. Oh, sorry. Which is also faculty ID. It is a foreign key. Foreign key FK. Like this. Now, for the student table, it still has one more thing in about the student table, the supervisor one. As I already told you that this supervisor, this supervisor and student, this relation is supervisor has to take one student to be. We have to take one of the student into to be a supervisor, and supervisor is come from one of the normal student. So we have to put it in the same table as the student. So we have to put one more table in student, which is called supervisor. It's called supervisor, and it is also a foreign key. You must have a question. You must have a question that, oh, why supervisor is a foreign key? It is a foreign key because it has to take one of the student into a supervisor to become supervisor. So it has to take one from the student ID. So which means that supervisor is a foreign key. It has to take student into a supervisor. So I will draw it for you like this. See, it's like this. The supervisor have to take one of the students to be the supervisor. So supervisor is a foreign key. Now let's take a look about all the relation first before we draw that relation line. Now let's take a look about student and literature. It has one-to-many relationship. So we have to take literature ID, which is a primary key, and import it into the student table. And this literature ID will become a foreign key in student table. Now we have to create another table in student, which is called literature ID. Lecturer ID, and it's also a foreign key. like that. So we already finished the relation in this half of this ER mapping. Now let's move to the next one. For this student to cause, it has many-to-many relationship. As I already explained all of you, we have to create another table. So we already created it. So I have to write. I have to write the word to make. It is a many-to-many relationship. So we have to take student ID and course ID from the student table and course table. So it is a foreign key. Now let's take a look about the course and the lecturers. And it also contains one-to-many relationship. So we have to take the PK, the primary key from the lecturer, and import it into the course table. So we have to create another table for the course table, which we have to create another column for the course table, which called lecturer ID, and which will become foreign key. So now we already finished all of the we already finished finding all of the relationship in this ER diagram. We already finished the relation in this half of this ER mapping. Now let's move to the next one. For this student to cause, it has many-to-many relationship. As I already explained all of you, we have to create another table. So we already created it. So I have to write. I have to write the word to make. It is a many-to-many relationship. So we have to take student ID and course ID from the student table and course table. So it is a foreign key. Now let's take a look about the course and the lecturers. And it also contains one-to-many relationship. So we have to take the PK, the primary key from the lecturer, and import it into the course table. So we have to create another table for the course table, which we have to create another column for the course table, which called lecturer ID, and which will become foreign key. So now we already finished all of the we already finished finding all of the relationship in this ER diagram. So now we have to draw the relationship line. For this faculty ID, it doesn't have any foreign key, so we don't have to draw anything. And this faculty telephone, it takes faculty ID from the faculty table, so it is a foreign key. It is a foreign key, so we have to draw a line. Draw a relationship line for it. Draw it like that. Mhm. And this lecturer table, it also have one column that contain foreign key. So we also have to draw the relationship line, the relation line, which is from a faculty table. So we have, it is a foreign key that take from the faculty table. So we have to draw the line between them. Now let's move to the next one. Faculty ID and lecturer ID. These two column is also a foreign key, so we also have to draw the relation line. Next one, lecturer ID. This lecturer ID is a primary key from the lecturer table. So we have to draw the line from this student table into this lecturer table. Okay. Now let's also for the student skill, it take the primary key from the student. So it is also a foreign key in this student skill table. Mhm. Now let's find the next one. This course table, it also has one foreign key, which is from lecturer table. So we have to draw the line from this course table into the lecturer table. Mhm. Now for the study table, it has two foreign key. So we also have to draw it. You have to draw two lines in this table. One from the student ID and one from lecturer ID. Mhm. Next one is course ID. So now we already have finished all of this logical design, but don't forget the important step is to take a look again and make sure is there any right or is there any wrong in there. So this difficulty table, it don't have any foreign key. This telephone table, it take primary key from the difficulty table. Also lecturer, student ID, mm-hmm. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 7. So this is the end of my explanation about logical design. So now let's move to the next step, which is about the data dictionary. So that's all of my explanation. Bye bye.